My inspiration comes from results that cost your peace. Results that cost your peace is not success. I work with high achieving women who can do anything but shouldn't be doing everything. And what I try to do is make success feel livable with aligned goals, simple systems, consistent energy. I believe in the ripple effect of when women are grounded and fulfilled, families and workplaces change. I almost dare to say the world changes.
Welcome to the Wellness That Fits podcast, where we help busy moms eat well, restore energy, and clear brain fog without sacrificing family time or your sanity. I'm Cassie Greschel, registered dietitian and mom of three. I believe wellness should fit your real life, not the other way around. If you're tired of complicated wellness trends and want simple, sustainable strategies for meal prep, holistic nutrition, and time-saving routines, you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today, I am joined with Darya Maeki, and she and I had met in a Facebook group, and we are also in an email list building group. And so I have had the honor of talking with Darya, and I feel like she brings this calm presence whenever she's in the conversation. So Darya is a clarity and goal setting coach who transforms overwhelm into aligned momentum. Blending design thinking with mindset work, her North method guides clients to name core values, set goals that fit real life, and build rhythms that last. She hosts the Tea Talk with Darya podcast and teaches life by design, not by default. So welcome, Darya. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Cassie.
Absolutely. So I'm so excited you're here. And for listeners who maybe haven't met you yet, can you share a little bit more about your background and maybe what led you to become a clarity and life design coach?
Sure. So I graduated as a psychologist but started work in design, first in fashion, then interior design, and my life looked right and still felt off. I said right because I was looking for another word, but anyways, it just looked really like the dream life, but inside of me, something was just not right. And I used design thinking on my own life, rebuilt it around core values, and that became the North method. And that's how I help women turn overwhelm into aligned momentum, as you mentioned. But most importantly, I help women live a life by design and not default.
Okay, so I have to mention, because this didn't really pop out to me before, but the fact that you have life design coach and you were a designer per se, like I love that little kind of transformation of how, this outward design and now you're moving towards this inner design. Did that have anything to do with the name?
Yeah, absolutely. It had a lot to do with the name, but most of all, I think when we think of design, not often do we think of it from like with my interior design, when I was studying, working, either one, they really helped you think in a way that's very creative that you can apply to real life. And it's about really adjusting, finding solutions. Like that's what interior design is all about, finding solutions for challenges in design aspect. But that's what, life always has challenges that come up, and being able to be creative in the thinking, I think really helps a lot.
Yeah, I love that. So what inspired your focus on helping women design lives that feel both fulfilling and also sustainable?
My inspiration comes from results that cost your peace. And results that cost your peace is not success. So I work with high achieving women who can do anything but shouldn't be doing everything. And what I try to do is make success feel livable with aligned goals, simple systems, consistent energy. And that's really where my inspiration comes from. And I believe in the ripple effect of when women are grounded and fulfilled, families and workplaces change. I almost dare to say the world changes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've shared some of this with you, but I also am coming from that high achieving woman, chronic overachiever, trying to do everything. And I got to a point a couple of years ago too where it was absolutely impossible to continue doing what I was doing. And so I burned out and I had a moment of, taking a look at my calendar and understanding that my values were not aligned with what my calendar was showing. Like the things that were on my calendar, I couldn't even point to some of my values on there. And so I think it's so important that we take a step back and reflect on what truly is important to us and then actually prioritizing that into our calendars. So, when you talk about values, like, how do you draw that out of your clients? Like, how do you get them to start thinking about what truly is important to them? Because I just feel like a lot of times women have probably, like, the same answers, but how do you get them to one, like, draw out their true values and then encourage them to find their why, to actually put their values on their calendar or to have them show in real life?
I mean, we go through an intensive process, but it's really understanding. We have to understand how you're living your life as of today and be true to your current circumstances. So there's a lot of times where I've worked with clients and they will assume they have a certain list of values. But then when you work with them, you realize their values they might have been holding on to from years in the past that aren't their values for their season of life today. So it's really understanding the psychology behind how you can get the person to really come to realization to where they are in their life today and where do they want to be. And then from there, see what is important to them to be able to draw out what those values are.
Oh my gosh, that just rings so true because I think about how you're raised and the environment that you're in and what you've been told as a child or growing up and thinking that you are, you identify as this or you label yourself as a perfectionist or organized person. I'm using organization as just an example here because I have learned that through motherhood, I have had to let go of a couple of my identities in order to keep my sanity. So I'm curious, do you have like an example for us where something similar has happened, where somebody was thinking they had one value and you help them see that in the season of life they're in, that no longer works for them or serves them, or maybe, it doesn't serve them in this season of life?
Yes, the most recent one that comes to mind is of a client I had who was convinced that connection was one of her core values, like her top 3 values. And so, w as a result of that, there was a lot of time spent to understanding why she's not connecting in her environment. She doesn't have the certain type of friendships that she, like, feels like she needs to have, and so once we did the work and we really own down to what her core values are, she realized connection was nowhere near her radar because she was putting so much effort and energy in trying to connect in a place where she felt like she doesn't have the environment to develop the connections, those deep connections she's looking for because she's comparing them with friendships she has abroad, with friends she grew up with, friends that she's made throughout the years that have that bond. And that environment that she's in isn't able to give her that. And she's just, putting so much energy into finding those friends and ignoring so many other aspects of her life because of it, until she realized that, no, wait a minute, connection is not a top value for me because I'm already covered there because of the friendships I already have. And it
Mhm.
just like opened up a world for her where she's like, oh my God, like I feel at peace. I feel like I have so much more time in my calendar because I'm not trying to connect with people who I'm not connecting with. And I'm just trying to do it because I feel like I need that connection when it's not true. I have my trips that I go on vacation with those friends. I have my weekly calls with those friends. I have my own family. I don't need that.
Yeah, that is so eye-opening because you would think how you're spending your time because it's these values they're good values, right? Like all your value, like all the list of values that you can have, they're all good, but it's like what rings true for you and now in this season of life. And just imagine, like you said, the time it opened up on her calendar. And I think one way that, through work with you, but also I think one way that we can identify some of those things is just like being intentional about how we spend our day and then reevaluating it. Like I personally journal every night and I write down what energizes me and what drains me, and you can start to see patterns. And so I always love the practice of journaling because I think it really draws out where you are in your life, boundaries maybe that you need to set, and things that maybe you could experience more of, things that are energizing you. So, now that I speak of boundaries, I'm just like curious how you go about addressing boundaries with clients and maybe some tips and tricks that you have, because I think we as women feel like we're juggling so many things, wearing all the hats, and it's really hard to say no, and even if it's not hard to say no, we're still trying to fit in the things that we say we value, like our family and our kids and, all these things around us in community. So it's like, how do you set those boundaries? And obviously they might change over time depending on the season of life that you're in. But yeah, how do you approach boundaries and what are your best tips?
So for drawing your boundaries, like there's a foundation that needs to be built. And that foundation is what we just spoke about, knowing your core values. Because if you don't have your core values, I always say this, is your GPS. So if those core values aren't set, then what are you putting boundaries on? Where are those boundaries? How could you even know where to start to put those boundaries? So you need to have a foundation, like going back to design and building, like the foundation is very important because if your foundation isn't strong, you can build whatever home on top of it, but it'll eventually, with time, crumble down because the foundation won't be able to sustain what's been growing on top of it. So boundaries is an example of that. You really need to understand what your core values are so that you can use them as your GPS to set the boundaries. So, if, for example, health is one of your values, then you can commit to, let's say, I always talk about starting small. So, if you're just starting out, this makes sense when you're starting out, a 10-minute walk after dinner 3 times a week. If you know that, then you block out those 3 days in your calendar, and anything that tries to get into that, it's blocked off. And that's how you set, your first boundary of, I cannot take a dinner. I cannot commit to X, Y, or Z because I have my health. That's my core value and is my priority. So it's in tweaking in small places in that way, eventually that you start building from that. And then from that, your boundaries, it comes second nature. It's not even something you have to really think about because I know for us women, it's very, very hard to set those boundaries. We don't want to disappoint. We don't want to make someone feel bad. We always have that chatter in our mind. But if you know what your core values are, you know why you have them, it makes it a lot easier. So really the trick is knowing your core values.
Yeah, and to your point, the why behind it. I think the more you understand your why, and even when you think you have answered the why question, ask yourself why again, why you believe that, to get really down to the core of it all. Uh, because one value we might have is like, I want to make sure there's time for my kids, but why? And you bring it down to like being present with them or being connected with them, and whether this is kids or family or spouse or whatever, think bringing that why question in helps a ton. Now, when you talk about boundaries and design, I'm thinking this really concrete example, and the calendar just keeps coming to mind, and how it's very concrete and physical, and you can see priorities that you have on the calendar, and you can set boundaries around those things. So I am curious, how do you see this play out with your idea of your brain health GPS, like keeping your GPS pointed toward your core values? How do you think this might help reduce decision fatigue and help women be more aligned with their routines?
I you know, I'm going to keep coming back to our core values because your top values act like guardrails. From a psychology standpoint, they're a pre-decision filter. So choices stop being 50-50 and start being very obvious. So fewer decisions cause a less mental load on you.
Yeah, I love that.
We turn values into templates and defaults. A simple meal rotation. I think about you in that. A fixed bedtime ritual, a yes, no filter for the calendar. Pre-deciding once saves you from redeciding 20 times a day.
Oh my gosh, yes. I couldn't agree more. And you brought up meal prep, so I just have to say it is crazy how planning once and prepping ahead like completely reduces your stress and decision fatigue throughout the week. Anything that you do, if you can create like a system or an automation around it, I think it just completely reduces mental load. Yeah, I'm curious if you have really specific routines in your own life that are your go-to, non-negotiable. They keep you grounded in your cores. I mean, I know some people have, the morning routine or the evening routine. Is there something that you have where you have to do daily or weekly to like feel the most grounded?
So I'm going to share what I is non-negotiable for me. Like non-negotiable is the first thing I ingest is lemon water, hot lemon water every day. I will not have anything else prior to that. I meditate and I have a morning gratitude journal. Those are three things that I cannot separate from.
Mhm. I love that. And, I was looking on your Instagram feed, and I absolutely loved you had a post on, like, singing karaoke in the car, and I thought it was hilarious because it totally reminded me of myself and just, like, going at it in the car, even though, like, I'm personally a terrible singer. And you had a little, caption with it was 111 Sunday reset. Can you tell me just a little bit more about that? Do you have, like, these specific resets for each day? Is it just, like, whenever you need it, you pull from the hat, this 111 reset? Tell us more about that.
I'm gonna tell you about that, but because you brought this up, I wanted like the singing in the car, I do all the time. And I cannot tell you how much joy it brings into my life. Like it literally changes the mood. It brings so much energy. And I am a horrific singer. Like, I don't even know why I think it's a good idea to post that publicly where you can hear me sing. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is, like, doing these little things that just I mean, how like, it's 3 minutes a song, but it, like, energizes you so, so much, and I believe in the little things so much, so
Mhm.
much.
Okay, I
Um
love it. Like, don't be afraid to post things like that because I think it's so relatable. Personally, I'm like, okay, good. There's another singer out there who says she's a terrible singer and is just belting out these songs. Like, I feel that. I think it's no surprise that music can bring so much joy to our lives, and it's also just like this release. I love like your idea of just what's one thing or two things that can bring you joy in the moment. Maybe are you doing this when you're feeling extra stressed, or are you just doing it whenever because it's fun?
It happens oftentimes when I'm just, like, having fun driving. I have some time, a nice like, a song I really enjoy comes on, and I'll just go for it. It's not like always if you see me driving, just constantly singing, but oftentimes I am. Um, but I do make a point when if, like, something is stressful, something's happening that's maybe, is taking up a lot of brain space, if I am in the car, I definitely turn on the music and I just start singing, and it just changes everything.
I love it.
But I do wanna answer your question. The 3R reset, I think you mentioned.
Yes.
So for that, it's release, reduce, and restart. So sorry, reset.
Mhm.
Reset. Did I said reduce?
Reduce, release, and reset.
Yes, so
Is that what
those are the
okay.
3 R for the reset, which is release judgment, reduce the habit, and restart now. Not I'll start Monday, now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, especially in terms of health. I think we live in a culture that it's like this all or nothing mentality. And if somebody starts some kind of diet and they make one little mistake, it's like throw in the towel, I'll start again next month or next week or whatever. And I am the person to promote make it right now. Like, yeah, we're all going to I don't even want to say mess up. It's not even messing up. It's called life. And if you eat a cookie, it's fine. It doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean, it's not even a mistake. It's life. And I think if we are approaching our goals, whether it be health or stress management, with more of like a 80-20, where we are doing what we can and we're giving ourselves grace for the rest of the 20%, I think that will release a lot of stress, anxiety, and tension and around us trying to be perfect. Obviously, we're never going to be perfect, right? So I love that idea. Can you say those three one more time?
Yes, absolutely. It's release, reduce, restart.
I love it.
And
Okay.
I wanna, add something to what you were saying, which is mistakes, missed days, they are data. They're not our identity. They're just data.
Yeah, I come across that a lot obviously in the health field where people lose confidence in themselves and they think they cannot approach a specific eating pattern or keep consistent with their goals because they feel like they've gotten this data in the past where they're framing it in their minds like, I can't do that kind of eating pattern or I have failed in the past and so I don't feel like I can do this again. And it's like, that's not a failure, first of all. It's an opportunity to learn what worked for you, what didn't work for you. And it gives us, again, another opportunity to grow and how can we fix it down the line? How can we change things? How can we tweak things to make it fit your life, to make it fit the season of life and just your unique in my field again, your unique personalized nutrition plan or something. And so obviously everybody is unique and they need individualized approach. So yeah, I love those three things. I'm definitely gonna keep those in mind as I go about my day. Can you explain a little bit more about the North method? You briefly touched on it in the beginning, but I want to hear a little bit more about it.
So, the North method is a method I created when I first So when I first started almost 10 years ago, I became a coach for an organization called We Do. And from there, I started seeing patterns. And through that process, I realized the the North method is a framework, but I tailor it to each client because, to your point of what you just mentioned right now, everybody is unique and everybody has their own circumstances. So I adapt the North method, the framework, to each client's um to where they are, because I'm a true believer that you need to be realistic, honest with your current situation, and from that we can make the North method work the best way possible for you. I can't I don't believe in, a framework for everyone is going to work the same. So that the framework is, we talk a lot about core values. We take a very deep audit of what your life is today, what you would want it to be in the future, and we work around all the different steps through the North method to get you where you want to be.
Yeah, meeting people where they are,
Meeting
right?
people where they are.
That's the best way for success when you're coaching is just wherever that person might be, start there, move with small habits and small micro habits, if you will. And yeah, I just love that. Meet them where they are. So tell us, Daria, any new programs or anything that you're working on or projects that you're excited about right now?
Sure. So the North method was originally created, and it was a 12-week program. And most recently, the last year, I've created another offer, which is the VIP intensive. And it's a full day. It's the North method in one full day. I've I've been loving those sessions because a lot of them have been in person, and we just spend a whole day together, and the transformation I've been seeing is obviously a lot quicker because we take care of everything in that one session, so it's really exciting. What else? I have workshops, um, and I continue with my, podcast every Tuesday with a new episode. That's been going on for quite some time now. Yeah, that's what's keeping me busy.
Awesome. Yeah, that VIP day sounds really awesome. I know a lot of coaches are implementing those more because of the transformation that you can see. I know in our day and age, it's like people want things instantly, and transformations do take time. But if you can do some intensive work, I think it can really push people farther ahead in the game. Not to say that, the work is done, right? But it's just like gives you a good launch pad, right, for the rest of the work. So
Absolutely.
that's awesome. Well, Daria, where can people connect with you? Where can they find out more about what you do and what you offer? Where should they go?
You can find me on Instagram, as you already mentioned, singing along the way, and, that's at my full name, Darya Maeki. I'm also on Facebook. You can always email me at hello@daryamaeki.com. I'm sure we can sh- um, add in the show notes. I can link up my free core values self audit. And because you're a Wellness That Fits podcast episode listener, I saved a handful of complimentary 30-minute clarity calls. I usually do 15 minutes, but I'm giving you guys the 30-minute calls, and you can connect with me via the show notes.
That's awesome. How generous of you. I think it is so important to get on discovery calls just to learn more. And you are the perfect person, right? To direct them like GPS style, what they might need in this season of life. So thank you again for joining me and for giving the listeners that GPS oriented style of life design and thinking so that we can use some of these actionable tips in our own lives. And again, thanks for bringing just your calm and your cool to the podcast. And it was so nice having you.
Thank you, Cassie. It was such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Wellness That Fits podcast. I hope you walk away with simple, doable steps you can put into practice right away. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world if you subscribed, left a review, or shared it with another busy mom who could use some encouragement. Until next time, friends, keep creating wellness that fits your life.